Former Senator Byron Dorgan is with us this morning. He served on the Senate Banking Committee. So you had a crystal ball then, and your prediction was right, and here we are. So you're not surprised by where our banking system finds itself right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it was a crystal ball, but, I felt very strongly that the protections we put in place after the Great Depression, Glass-Steagall and so on, should have remained. And quickly replacing Glass-Steagall, which is the wrong thing to do and very dangerous. And let me just say one thing. I don't want the American people to think that banking in our country is unsafe. It largely is not unsafe at all. But there have been some recent exceptions in the last few days that tell us again, there needs to be effective regulation. I know banks don't like it, but the fact is there needs to be effective and strong regulation. There needs to be strong supervision, and there needs to be good management. All three of those failed with respect to the Silicon Valley Bank. And one final point, the Congress just in 2018 decided to loosen regulations on some of the biggest banks. That's unreasonable, outrageous, really dumb to have done.
Is it loosening of regulations, or is it ignoring warning signs, or a combination of the two that led to this recent fallout?
It's both of those for sure. Loosening regulations. If they hadn't taken that $50 billion, and moved it to $250 billion, they would have seen what was going on at the Silicon Valley Bank. Plus, the Federal Reserve Board, by the way, should have had better supervision there, and there should have been better management at the bank. But the big banks go to Congress all the time because they don't like regulation. Congress has a responsibility to put effective regulations in place and keep them there. That's the only way the American people will understand in the long run that banking is always going to be safe.
And a lot of people are less concerned about the big banks, but what I've been hearing over the last few days is the possibility that some mid-level, smaller banks may run into some issues in the months ahead. How do you prepare people for that possibility, that if they've got a small bank, there is always the possibility the doors could close?
Well, we need effective supervision by the Fed and FDIC and others. That's just what we need to do to give people confidence. But, when Dodd-Frank, the piece of legislation that tried to put some things back in place that is protective, when that was enacted, I said, I will vote for it, and I did. But I said, this is just a small step forward. The issue of credit default swaps and all the other inventive things that have come out of the banking system, they need to shut most of that down, especially naked credit default swaps that are traded in massive quantity these days. So what I want is effective regulation for America's banks. And that way, we think the American people will always understand when they put their money there, that money is safe.
What does effective legislation look like? Can you give me some examples of a few things that you'd like to see put into place that you think will make a difference to prevent this?
Well, first of all, repeal what was done in 2018 by the Congress. I can't think of anybody that went to the Congress that said, you know what I want you to do for me? I'm talking about a taxpayer or a banker or somebody that puts money in the bank. What I want you to do for me is loosen regulation on the banks. What a dumb thing for Congress to have done. So, number one, they should restore that. Second, I have always felt that there should be a restoration of Glass-Steagall. Why should you allow the banking, which not only requires soundness, but just the basic perception that it is safe and sound? Why should you require banking to engage in riskier enterprises, insurance, securities, and other things? So, we always need to have effective regulation with respect to American banking. And I know the bankers don't like it in many cases, but it's necessary.
And do you think people will look at banks differently? It's a place to put your money, but those who invest in banks, right, who buy shares of banks in the stock market, that's a riskier thing after seeing what happened here.
Well, that's a riskier thing, of course, and they're not being made whole. We're talking about the issue of depositors and how depositors feel about whether their money is safe at a bank. And I want to end again by saying, I don't want people to think that banking is unsafe. They shouldn't feel that way because in most cases, banking is very safe. We've had a couple of exceptions. And what those exceptions ought to say to us is get about the business of fixing the problems that cause those exceptions. And that means more effective regulation. It means better supervision by the Federal Reserve Board. And it also means that we need to make sure that if there's poor management in banks, we ought to get rid of the management.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.